Hey homies, this is your final exam study guide. I'm going to keep this short and sweet for you, hopefully. We'll see. All right, so questions to consider for every text that we read in this class. What is the author's purpose? To entertain, to inform, ideas like that. Why do teenagers need to read this piece of literature? I tried to make connections for you guys in how the age-old texts that we read were applicable for today. How does it connect to the world or society as a whole? And then what are the themes about life that the works conveyed? Why is the author well known for the work, and how did it affect you personally as a reader? So these were some topics that we covered throughout the semester. All right, some literature terms. I think I went over these in class. Next is Mla Format and Citations. So again, MLA stands for Modern Language Association. And remember, I will be asking you some questions about MLA on your test. Make sure you know what a works cited page is. Make sure that you know what in-text citations are, also known as parenthetical citations. True or false? Let me cover these right here. If you don't have an author's last name to use when alphabetizing your sources, you should use the first letter of the next piece of information that you do have. That is going to be true because if you don't have an author's last name, you go to the next part of the citation, which is probably going to be the title of the source you're using. And so, yes, you would use the first letter of the next piece of information that you do have. All right, next question. True or false, your works cited page and the documentation in the research paper should match. That is true. Remember, your citation on your works cited page should match the in-text citation in your paper. So for example, if my citation is To Kill a Mockingbird and it starts off Lee, Harper, period, To Kill a Mockingbird, etc., the in-text citation within my body paragraphs where I use my evidence, at the end, it should have a parenthesis, Lee, because that's her last name, it matches the citation, and then it should have the page number, in parenthesis, period. Next question. Plagiarism can be avoided by, take a little look-see at these, including a proper works cited page, including proper documentation in a paper, paraphrasing or quoting the information from a secondary source. Yes, the answer is, you guessed it, all of the above. All right, just remember, plagiarism is using someone else's words or ideas without giving them credit. And you always want to make sure that you have your citation in the works cited page, the works cited page, where does it go? It goes at the very end of your paper. Make sure that you know MLA format, because I do have some MLA format questions on your exam, such as what is the font for MLA format? Times New Roman size 12. That is the correct answer. All right, moving on. Now let's talk about the hero's journey. Oh, I love the hero's journey so much. Every film has the hero's journey in it. George Lucas actually finished Star Wars Episode 4 because of the hero's journey. And the hero's journey was created, hint, hint, by Joseph Campbell. And he wrote a book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And he talked about how the hero may look differently in different plots. However, he has the same adventures in a sense. And so that's where we kind of get like the frame, the structure of the hero's journey. So the hint, what I'm getting to this is the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell calls, is the mono myth, which is in your hero's journey notes from the beginning of the semester. But mono, M-O-N-O, myth, M-Y-T-H, mono means one. So this is going to be the story of one character. All right, next. All right, so the hero's journey, just remember the hero is split between two different worlds in the story. You've got an ordinary world and you've got a special world, and the hero usually starts out in the ordinary world, and they get called to go on an adventure. Something shakes up the situation. They usually refuse the call. Some heroes don't refuse it. They go in for it full force. And then stage 4 is meeting the mentor, where they meet somebody that guides them along their journey. Step 5 is crossing over into the threshold. For example, Percy Jackson crosses over from his ordinary world into Camp Half-Blood. Remember that? And then stage 6 is going to be sorting out your friends, allies, and enemies. Stage 7 is the approach, like how are you going to prepare for your journey? And stage 8 I want to focus on is the road, is the ordeal. And I think of the ordeal as like facing his or her greatest fear. And that's going to be where they see an evil character for the first time, probably. And then stage 9 is like where they get the reward and they're headed back. And this is when you, the audience member, you think everything is hunky-dory, but really it's not over. You know it's not over. So then there is the, hint, hint, road back. And this is where a chase scene usually occurs. And I think of the road, on the road back, and a chase. Like, not all chase scenes in Heroes Journeys happen in cars, but I think of a road and chasing in a car. So that's how I remember the road back chase scene. So you can remember it that way. Stage 10 is going to be the resurrection, and then the hero returns with the elixir. So, all right, archetypes. An archetype, make sure you know the definition of an archetype. It is a universal model or pattern that readers and audience members see over and over again. So this is why when we're watching our lovely Hallmark Christmas movies, we know exactly what is going to happen because Hallmark uses the same plots over and over and over again. And I don't care. I'm going to watch them anyway. But let's see. I got distracted. Go figure. All right. So yes, a universal pattern or model is an archetype. So an example of an archetype, a situational archetype, a symbolic archetype, a setting archetype, and character archetype. Now, a situational archetype could be any situation that a hero or character is in, such as a poor boy falling in love with a rich girl. That's a really good example. Think about Aladdin. Think about Titanic. Oh my goodness, what a tragedy that movie is. All right. Next, another example, let's talk about symbols, symbolic archetype. You could have anything good versus evil, light versus darkness. Those are good examples. Another archetype would be of, let's see. Let's talk about symbolic archetypes. Like think about an apple and how it's represented in different texts like Snow White, and then you think of an apple somewhere else and it's like maybe a MacBook. All right, next, setting archetypes. These are going to be the same settings we see over and over again. Think about water sources. Not TikTok. That is not a setting archetype. I'll just let you know. All right, next, let's talk about the Odyssey, since you guys loved that so much. Actually, I don't know because I wasn't there for that. All right, so what is an epic? Make sure you know what an epic is. Know the main purpose of Odysseus' journey. Where was he trying to go? He was trying to make it home. Which gods were significant to the story? Well, I'm going to say that there were 3 main ones, okay? The goddess that helped him the most was Athena. And then Zeus did help him. And then Poseidon, he was very important because Odysseus made him mad. And the last thing you want to do when you're trying to get home by boat is make the god of the seas mad. And he does that. All right, what human quality in Odysseus leads to his altercation with the Cyclops? It is going to be hubris, his hubris, Hubris. That is a Greek term, and it means excessive pride. So remember, He told the Cyclops all of his information as he and his crew were leaving. How does Penelope hold off the suitors? She unravels her picture. How does Odysseus appear when he returns? He appears a beggar. What is Mount Olympus's home? What is it home to? It is home to the 12 main gods and goddesses. And Zeus, really, he lives there. Why does Odysseus have to go to the land of the dead? He has to go get his prophecy from Tiresias. And remember, he runs into his mom while he's down there. He doesn't know his mom is down there. Which about Odysseus keeps him from giving his heart to Circe or Calypso, the enchantresses? Yeah, his wife. He wanted to go back home to his wife. That is so nice of him. All right, let's talk about terms. In media res, what does that mean? That means in the middle of. All right, what is an epic? It is a long narrative poem. In media res is in the middle of. So think about movies that start in the middle of everything, like Forrest Gump. One of my favorite examples is going to be Deadpool, where everybody is literally suspended in the air, and he's like, oh, I don't know how we got this way. And then he goes back to the beginning of the story, and he leads you up to the moment where they're floating in the air, and then you know how they got that way. All right, so a epic simile is going to also be a Homeric simile. So a regular simile is going to be comparing two things using like or as, right? An epic simile or Homeric simile, I like to say those are similes on steroids. Like that, Homer is going to compare something that is completely outrageous to something you're familiar with. So, for example, when Odysseus's men are getting whisked away by Scylla and Charybdis, he compares Scylla as a fisherman who is casting her rod into the sea, and she is reeling in her victims and then just, smashing their brains out and then eating them. And the familiar part about that is a fisherman, but then the smashing the brains out and eating them part is definitely not familiar. At least I hope it's not for you. Anyway, so that's what we call an epic simile, aka Dr. P calls that a simile on steroids. All right, moving on. Which goddess helps Odysseus on his journey home? I think we covered that already, right? It is Athena. All right, and some more terms. I just wanted to make sure you knew who Athena was, and you know what a myth and mythology is. Myth is stories about superhuman deeds and characters, and mythology is the study of myths. And what are these Greek gods and goddesses like? Are they just the sweetest, kindest figures out there? No, they're not. They were very strong, extremely beautiful. However, they were very deceitful and very spiteful and very intolerant. They always had to get what they wanted. Just in case you were wondering, we may think that the Greek gods and goddesses are savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, act stupid, but they're more extremely beautiful strength, and they have a lot of strength, and they are deceitful. So even if you think they're savage and classy and bougie, just remember they're deceitful as well. All right, let's move on to Kill a Mockingbird. All right, so here are your terms for To Kill a Mockingbird. You should have your flip books for that. What does Scout dress up as? She goes to the pageant. She's a ham, y'all. Why do you think Atticus never uses a gun unless it's necessary? Because he wants to show his family that courage isn't a man with a gun in his hand. And what does Scout see as she stands on Boo's porch at the end of the novel? Remember, this is a flashback, and she sees everything that Boo Radley saw throughout the book. It is one of my favorite moments. It is a beautiful moment. What are the main themes of To Kill a Mockingbird? Oh man, don't judge people is a really good theme. You never really understand a person until you consider things from their point of view. Until you get in their shoes and walk around in them. That's a Great theme. What is the mockingbird a symbol for in the novel? It is a symbol for innocence. And then this isn't on your study guide, but who do you think are the main, two main characters that represent the mockingbird? Yeah, you're right. It's Boo and Tom. Boo and Tom. What is Maycomb's usual disease? It is racism and prejudice. All right, and then who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird? I hope you know this. It is Harper Lee. All right, that's it for To Kill a Mockingbird. Y'all, do I really need to go over Romeo and Juliet because we just did this? Okay, I'm going to go fast, because I know y'all are like, I'm 15 minutes into this, she needs to hurry up. All right, so a sonnet, make sure you know what a sonnet is, what kind of plays Shakespeare wrote. He wrote tragedies and comedies and really, really boring history plays. Just remember what foreshadowing is. We talked about some moments of foreshadowing in the play. Let's see. Oh yeah, soliloquy. What is a soliloquy? A good example of that is going to be Juliet when she's alone. Y'all, it is so late. I'm so tired. Sorry. When she is alone in her room, expressing her impatience for Romeo to get to her room. And, you know, it's revealing his or her most inner thoughts or feelings. That's a soliloquy. An aside is when a character talks to the audience or speaks to the side. It's literally what it sounds like, an aside. Yeah. All right, make sure you know what dramatic irony is. It's when the audience knows more than the characters on stage. So personification. Remember that Lord Capulet personified Juliet's death. He said that death was his son-in-law and death is his heir. And some themes in Romeo and Juliet. Make sure you know those. And oh man, you know what? I think we're done reviewing. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll try to get back with you in a good amount of time. Email is probably going to be the better bet on how to reach me. And I'll try to reply quickly. But anyways, I hope you do great on the final. Go fight, win, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Ha 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 ha.